What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports back again with another one. TGIF. It's Friday. Made it through another week, and let's talk a little boxing. It came out yesterday that Canelo Alvarez will take on Billy Joe Saunders for the Billy Joe Saunders WBO super middleweight title, and Canelo Alvarez's WBA regular super middleweight title will also be on the line. It'll go down May 2nd, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, it was reported that it came down to two opponents for Canelo Alvarez, Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith. And I'm glad that he chose Billy Joe Saunders, man, because I would have had a hard time getting motivated and getting excited about a Callum Smith fight, man. Callum Smith has fought absolutely nobody. Only person he beat was George Groves in a fight in Saudi Arabia that nobody's seen and nobody cared about. That fight took place as far as it was a tournament, the WBSSS super middleweight tournament, and he was able to win that title. Like I said, it took place at somewhere in Saudi Arabia. Nobody saw it and nobody really cared about it. So I'm glad that he's fighting Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders is a more recognizable name. He has a better resume. You look at who he's beating, Andy Lee. He's beating William Monroe, David Lemieux, Chris Eubanks Jr. Just a better overall resume than what Callum Smith has done on his resume. That's all he's done is beating George Groves, and that's it. So I like that matchup. I like, as far as selling the fight, Billy Joe Saunders is going to do a good job of that, man. That guy is one of the best trash talkers in the sport of boxing, along with Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. He does a good job of talking trash, and I think he'll do a good job of trying to get inside of Canelo Alvarez's head. He's going to try to get inside his head and try to get inside of it rent-free. And he talks a lot of trash, man. The last opponent that usually those mind games don't work on Canelo Alvarez. Mayweather tried to get into his head a little bit and build up to their fight, and he might have had some success as far as that goes, getting into Canelo Alvarez's head in the pre-fight build-up. The other person that I thought did a good job of getting in Canelo Alvarez's head was Israel Lara, as he bum rushed a post-fight press conference involving Canelo Alvarez and Alfredo Anguilla, and was able to land that fight. And he talked a lot of trash leading up to that fight, and he was able to frustrate Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez was on the hunt trying to go for the knockout, didn't cut the ring off that well. He did a little bit better job in the second half of the fight, but the first half of the fight, he was doing a lot of running around, chasing Canelo Alvarez, ineffective aggressiveness, and Canelo Alvarez was out to pick him off with pot shots from the outside. Now, so I think Billy Joe going to be trying to do the same thing. You're going to be hearing the word cinnamon coming up in the press conference in the build-up leading up to this fight, man. He's going to be talking a lot of trash, man. He's been saying a lot of things about Canelo already in the past, saying that his style is all wrong for Canelo Alvarez. That's why Canelo Alvarez hasn't faced him up until this point, and he's going to be trying to sell that again, man. Say he's got a tricky style. He's a boxer. He's a mover. He has a high boxing IQ, and he's going to basically be saying his style is all wrong for Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is a much, much, much better boxer now. Much better boxer now, than he was back in the Floyd Mayweather days and even the Israel Lara days. He's a much better boxer. He does a good job of closing distance, and he does another good job of breaking down his opponents to the body. And he does a good job of throwing combinations, man. He's just a good fighter, man. He's fundamentally sound on defense, too, as he's able to roll a lot of punches. He's picked up on that Floyd Mayweather shoulder roll defense. He's implemented that in fights. So he's a much more complete fighter than he was back then. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup. It's going to boil down to this. Can Billy Joe Saunders get the knockout? I don't see it. So if he goes to a decision, it's going to be hard for him to beat Canelo Alvarez. Now, Billy Joe Saunders can try to fight a style that can Canelo Alvarez's problem, and maybe lead to a point where people say, well, shoot, Saunders won the fight, but they gave it to Canelo Alvarez. I can see that picture getting painted. He fought a good fight. He beat Canelo Alvarez, but he beat him everywhere but up the scorecards. The judge gave it to Canelo in a close competitive fight. I can see that happening. Will it happen? Well, that remains to be seen. But I think for that to happen, I think Billy Joe Saunders has got to go back to what he did when he fought David Lemieux. I think that was his best performance of his pro career. Put on a beautiful boxing display. Now, granted, David Lemieux is nowhere near the level of Canelo Alvarez. He's a brawler, come forward fighter, cement feet. but he did have power in both hands, and he was very accurate with his power shots. A guy that was had speed to his power shots. He wasn't slow with the power shot. He was slow as far as footwork and stuff like that, and he was flat-footed a lot of times. But as far as when he did get off his power shots, he was very explosive, David Lemieux, and he couldn't touch Billy Joe Saunders in that fight. And that fight took place in Canada, I think, in Lemieux's her home country. And like I said, Joe Saunders put on a beautiful boxing display. Now, if that Billy Joe Saunders show up May 2nd, 2020, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, we got a great fight on our hands, folks, a great fight. And Billy Joe Saunders can very well win that fight. But if the Billy Joe Saunders that showed up in his last performance, where he looked like trash in his last performance, Canelo Alvarez is going to dominate that fight and could possibly get a late stoppage in that fight. So it just all depends on what Billy Joe shows up. A lot of people are saying, "Oh man, they don't like this fight. This fight does nothing to him. Canelo Alvarez should run through him." Yeah, you know, you can say that, but like I said, this fight is a little bit more competitive than what I think. I'm excited about this fight, man. I ain't been this excited about a Canelo fight since probably the second Triple G fight. You know, he fought Daniel Jacobs. I had a hard time getting up for that fight. Days leading up to the fight, I started working myself into getting in that fight, but I knew that Daniel Jacobs didn't have the capability of beating Canelo Alvarez. Same thing with Kovalev, man. I wasn't excited about that fight. The only thing that kind of intrigued me was the size difference. I was wondering, could Canelo handle a big, true heavyweight? But I knew if everything being on equal terms and he didn't have no problem with the weight, I thought his skills were much better than Sergey Kovalev at this point of Sergey Kovalev's career, due to the wear and tear of his past fights with Andre Ward and Andre Ward and Anthony Yard and Barrera, the Colombian fighter. You know, he got knocked out in. He came back and won the rematch. Those fights were very, very physical fights, and he took a lot of punishment in those fights. And he's just not the same fighter. He's not fresh as he was, you know, when he was known as the Crusher. So this fight here, I think he's catching Billy Joe Saunders, and Billy Joe Saunders is a little bit more fresher than his last two opponents, a more lively dog, as they say. And I think it's going to be a very competitive fight, man. Another thing I think that's a plus for Billy Joe Saunders is Ben Davison. Ben Davison is a very good technical trainer. Very good as far as on the technical aspect of training, of boxing. You know, throwing a jab, shooting the left hand, using defensive skills, head movement, bobbing and weaving, rolling punches, taking the steam off power punches, being very, very slick. Ben Davison specializes in that, as he was a trainer of Tyson Fury's first fight with Deontay Wilder, and Tyson Fury put on a beautiful performance of defensive skills, and he was able to get a draw with Deontay Wilder in a fight a lot of people thought they won. After that fight was over, I think he trained Tyson Fury in his next two fights, and Tyson Fury won both of those fights. So he's a real good trainer, man. He's a real good trainer, man. So I think that's going to be a good matchup between trainers. You got Ben Davison going against Reynoso, the trainer of Canelo Alvarez, who's one of the top trainers in boxing. So that's going to be a good game inside the game. You know, good chess match between those two trainers, as both guys try to get their fighters ready, and both guys formulate a game plan for May 2nd. So it's a good matchup, man. I'm excited about this fight, man. It's gonna be a good matchup, man. I kind of put the middleweight and the super middleweight kind of like in the same division. And if you look at the top fighters in those two weight classes, you're looking at Canelo at number 1, and you got to put Billy Joe Saunders in the top 5. So this is a good top 5 matchup in the middleweight, super middleweight division, man, and I'm happy about that, man. It should be a good fight. It should be a good lead up to the fight, good trash talking, as Billy Joe Saunders is going to be looking to come to the United States and put on an epic performance, and he'll be motivated because he's seen what Tyson Fury did when he came down here and defeated Deontay Wilder, and the love he got when he came back to the UK. So that's going to motivate him to try to duplicate that and come down here and defeat Canelo Alvarez and finally get the glory and the fame that has eluded him there in the UK. So he's going to be very, very motivated. So I kind of don't see the last performance as being a performance we're going to see from Billy Joe Saunders. Now the question that you might want to ask is the PEDs. You know, ever since Billy Joe Saunders was busted with the PEDs, he said it was quote unquote nasal spray. Okay, whatever. He was busted with PEDs, His performance has not been to the level as it was before he was busted with PODs. You know, the David Lemieux fight, that was before the POD test came back positive. You know, the Willie Monroe fight, that was before the PED drug test became positive. You know, when he beat Andy Lee, that was before he was busted on the PED test. You know, when he beat Chris Eubanks Jr., that was before he failed the PED test. So you look at all of what happens post failing the PED test, he does not look good. It's not look good. You know, he had to pull out of the Demetrius Andrade fight, and that was a 50-50 fight. I really wanted to see that fight that was supposed to take place in Boston on DAZN, but he got busted on that. You know, if they would have went on ahead with that fight after he was being busted, they was able to find a loophole to get out, to still continue on with that fight. He in all likelihood would have lost that fight against Andrade. You know, because based on what we've seen since he failed that PED test. So we'll see what happens, man. But if he can get back to that level that he was before the PED test, and he's got a lot of motivation to do that and show everybody that it wasn't a PED test, because a lot of people saying, hey, man, you ain't shit since you got busted from the PED test. Your performances have been trash since you got busted. This is motivation from that standpoint, and the standpoint of, you know, this is the biggest fight of his career. He's been chasing this fight and the Triple G fight. He's finally on the big stage. Will he rise to the occasion? Seeing the love and the adulation that Tyson Fury has gotten since he's knocked out Deontay Wilder, that's another motivation he'll want to finally get the love back home in the UK. He's got a lot of motivating factors for him to put on a hell of a performance May 2nd. And you know Canelo Alvarez is a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter, so you know what he's gonna bring to the table, fight in and fight out. So I think it's gonna be a great fight, great performance, and I'll be breaking the fight down in depth as we lead up to the fight, man. But just a preview of the fight. This is gonna be a competitive fight. This is gonna be a highly skilled, highly entertaining fight, man. And it could go either way. Right now, I'm leaning toward Canelo Alvarez winning the decision in a close, competitive fight. But we'll see what happens as we get a little bit closer to the fight, man. But both guys bringing a lot to the table. Both guys are highly skilled. Both guys can box. I just think Canelo has a little bit more dimension to his game. He can come forward and go backwards. He's got a little bit more pop in his punches to this point, even though Billy Joe Saunders has shown power at times. But like I said, that was PED test when he failed those PED. That was before he failed the PED test. But ever since then, he's not shown that type of pop in his punches. But if he can get back to that point, you know, he could be somewhere on the level of Canelo Alvarez. But right now, Canelo Alvarez has more pop in his punches, a little bit more versatility to his game, as he can fight going forward and going backwards. Billy Joe Saunders is more effective when the guy's bringing the fight to him and he can fight and use his skills to combat the aggressive fighter coming toward him. He's a good fighter that can fight off the back foot. So I think Canelo can fight either way and fight either way effectively. So I give him the slight advantage as far as that goes. But I like the fight and I like the matchup. We'll see what happens. We'll see what transpires. That's just my preview of how I think the fight's going to play out. The week leading up to the fight, I'll break it down a little bit more in depth and let you know what each fighter needs to do to get the win. And ultimately, I'll make my prediction on who I ultimately think will win May 2nd. But leave your comments in the comment section if you like this matchup, Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo Alvarez, or you preferred Canelo Alvarez fight, maybe Callum Smith or Jamal Charlo, or Demetrius Andrade, or other opponent that I did not state. You can leave your comments in the comment section. If you like this fight or you think he should fight another opponent, let me know what you think in the comment section. This is JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. I holla.